The last sliver of twilight, a ribbon of amethyst and rose, bled into the deep indigo of night above Silverwood Glade. Elara, tucked snugly into her bed of woven moon moss, watched the transformation through her window, which was not glass but a smooth, polished slab of amber. Outside, the great whisperwood trees, ancient and stoic, began their nightly luminescence, their bark glowing with a soft internal light that pulsed like gentle heartbeats. It cast the glade in an ethereal glow, turning the winding paths and the mushroom-capped houses into a scene from a dream. The air in Silverwood Glade always smelled of damp earth, sweet honeysuckle, and the faint, clean scent of the glowing sap that ran through the whisperwood trees. Tonight, however, there was a new note, subtle as a breath, like petrichor after a rain that hadn't quite fallen, mixed with something else, something ancient and almost musical. Elara closed her eyes, letting the familiar lullabies of the glade wash over her. The chirr of the twilight crickets, the rustle of the leaves as the wind whispered secrets through their branches, the distant murmuring song of the river Glyn. Yet, beneath it all, she heard it again. It wasn't a sound one could easily describe. It wasn't a voice, nor a song, nor the creak of wood or the sigh of wind. It was more like a feeling, a resonance, a vibration that hummed just at the edge of hearing, a faint, persistent. It was, I the whispering. Elara had first noticed it a few weeks ago, a fleeting, almost imperceptible current in the air, a breath on the back of her neck when no breeze stirred. At first, she'd thought it was her imagination, the sleepy murmurings of the old forest settling down for the night. But it had grown, ever so slightly, each passing evening. Tonight, it was undeniable, a soft, insistent presence that seemed to a man emanate from the very heart of the whisperwood, from the deepest, oldest parts of the forest that bordered the glade. Her mother, Lyra, a woman with hair like spun moonlight and eyes the color of moss after rain, would often say Elara was too attuned. You hear the world's heart. Little sprout, she'd murmur, brushing Elara's dark, tangled curls from her face. But sometimes, the world's heart beats in riddles. Elara knew what her mother meant. She saw the tiny, shimmering threads of magic that wove through everything, the way the dew on a spiderweb caught the starlight and spun it into tiny rainbows, the faint, golden aura around a firefly's flicker, the silent conversations between the roots of the trees beneath the earth. Most people in Silverwood Glade were aware of magic, of course, for it was as natural as breathing there, but few saw or heard its intricacies quite like Elara. Tonight, the whispering felt like a riddle begging to be solved. It pulled at her, a gentle, invisible thread tugging at her curiosity. She slipped out of her bed, her bare feet silent on the cool, polished floorboards. The moon moss quilt pooled around her ankles like a soft cloud. Her small room, carved into the base of a particularly wide whisperwood, was cozy and comforting. Shelves carved from the living wood held smooth riverstones, dried flower petals, and tiny, intricate carvings of forest creatures. A single luminous moth, its wings painted with patterns of starlight, fluttered lazily around a sprig of glowing night bloom her mother had placed by her bedside. She padded to the window, pressing her cheek against the smooth, cool amber. The glade outside was still, save for the rhythmic pulsing of the trees. The whispering was stronger here, a soft, pervasive hum that seemed to resonate in the very marrow of her bones. It wasn't a frightening sound, not exactly, but it carried an undeniable sense of ancientness, of something vast and powerful stirring from a long slumber. Her gaze drifted past the familiar houses, past the communal hearth where the last embers of the day's cooking fire still glowed, and towards the edge of the known paths. Beyond the glade's protective embrace lay the deeper woods, a place of ancient secrets and shadowed glades, where the whisperwood trees grew taller, their branches tangling into an impenetrable canopy, and where the air grew heavy with untold stories. Elders spoke of it with reverence and a touch of caution, tales of slumbering spirits and forgotten magic. It was from there, Elara was certain, that the whispering truly came. A soft hoot broke her reverie. A small mottled owl with eyes like polished amber landed on her windowsill, tilting its head. It was Pip, her most frequent nocturnal visitor, a creature of the glade who seemed to understand more than he let on. You hear it too, don't you, Pip? Elara whispered, reaching out a gentle finger to stroke the soft feathers on his head. Pip blinked slowly, then let out another soft hoot, a sound that seemed to carry its own tiny echo of the whispering. He hopped onto her shoulder, his claws surprisingly light, and nuzzled against her ear. The whispering seemed to grow a fraction louder, a subtle increase that made the air around them feel charged, almost expectant. The luminous moth by her bed fluttered more rapidly, its starlight wings leaving faint trails of light in the air. Outside, a few of the nearer whisperwood trees pulsed with a slightly brighter glow. "It's different tonight, isn't it?" Elara murmured to Pip, her voice barely a breath. "It feels like it's calling." Pip nipped gently at her earlobe, then flew from her shoulder, circling the room once before landing on a small, intricately carved wooden box on her shelf. It was her grandmother's box, a gift from many seasons ago, containing small treasures Elara had found. A perfect feather, a smooth, heart-shaped stone, a tiny, translucent beetle wing. Pip nudged the lid with his beak. Elara knew what he meant. Inside the box, nestled on a bed of dried lavender, lay a single iridescent scale. It was no bigger than her thumbnail, shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow, and it had been found deep in the deeper woods by her grandmother, Elara, many years ago. Grandmother Elara had given it to her on her naming day, saying it was a piece of the world weaver, a mythical creature from ancient tales said to spin the very fabric of existence. "It will always guide your heart to truth, little one," her grandmother had said, her eyes twinkling. Elara carefully opened the box and picked up the scale. It was cool to the touch, and as she held it, it seemed to glow with a faint, internal light, mirroring the pulsing trees outside. And as she held it, the whispering intensified around her, a gentle wave of sound washing over her, clear and distinct now, a chorus of soft harmonious tones, like 1,000 hidden flutes playing a melody only she could truly perceive. It wasn't just coming from the deeper woods anymore. It felt as if it was coming from everywhere, from the roots beneath her feet, from the air around her, from the very stars twinkling faintly above the canopy. This was more than just a sound. It was the world itself stirring, speaking, awakening. She felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to seek out her grandmother Elara. Her grandmother, with her deep knowledge of ancient lore, and her uncanny ability to understand the silent language of the glade, would know what this meant. She hoping to know. Slipping quietly from her room, Elara moved through the softly glowing hallways of her family's treehouse. Her parents were fast asleep, their gentle breathing a comforting rhythm from their own chambers. The glade was silent, except for the low hum of the whispering, which seemed to grow with every step she took towards the glade's edge. Grandmother Elara lived in the oldest, largest whisperwood tree in the glade, its trunk so wide that her small round house was carved into its very heart. Its branches, thick as other trees, reached up to embrace the moon. As Elara approached, the soft golden light from Grandmother Elara's window seemed to beckon her. She tapped softly on the gnarled wooden door. "Merlindi." A moment later, it creaked open, revealing Grandmother Elara, her silver hair braided with luminous moss, her eyes, sharp and knowing, immediately settling on Elara. She wore a simple homespun tunic, and the scent of warm herbal tea and ancient parchment always seemed to cling to her. "Elara, little star," Grandmother Elara said, her voice a low melodic rumble, "I expected you." She stepped aside, ushering Elara into her cozy home. Grandmother Elara's house was a treasure trove of ancient artifacts and living wonders. Shelves overflowed with aged scrolls, jars of glowing dust, dried herbs, and crystals that hummed with their own soft light. A small shimmering stream diverted from the river Glynn wound its way through the living floor, its gentle gurgle a constant companion. In the center of the room, a magnificent, gnarled table, carved from a fallen whisperwood branch, was laden with open books and maps. A steaming cup of tea sat beside a flickering lumenstone. The whispering, Elara began, barely able to contain her excitement and wonder. It's stronger tonight, Grandmother. I can hear it clearly. It's not just the forest, it's everything." She held out the iridescent scale. "And this, it glows when I hold it." Grandmother Elara took the scale, turning it over in her wise, wrinkled fingers. Its glow intensified, pulsing faintly in time with the whispering that now filled the room, a soft, harmonious chorus that seemed to resonate from every corner. A faint smile touched Grandmother Elara's lips. "Ah, The World Weaver's scale, she murmured, her gaze distant, as if looking into another time. It remembers its purpose, little one. And yes, the whispering, it has indeed awakened. She led Elara to the large table, pulling out a stool for her. Come, sit. There is much to tell, and tonight the stars align for listening. She poured Elara a cup of warm, sweet berry tea, the steam rising in delicate glowing tendrils. For generations our people in Silverwood Glade have lived in harmony with the Whisperwood, Grandmother Elara began, her voice soft but resonant. But few remember the true origins of this forest, or the ancient magic that sleeps beneath its roots. The whispering is not merely a sound, Elara, though it manifests as one to those who are attuned. It is the very pulse of the land, the breath of the world, waking up. She gestured to an old brittle map spread out on the table. It wasn't a map of familiar paths or rivers, but a constellation of shimmering lines and symbols, depicting an older, wilder world. Long, long ago, before even the oldest Whisperwood grew to its full height, the world was woven by powerful magic, held together by threads of pure energy. These threads, the lifeblood of our world, were known as the echoing veins, and when they were in perfect harmony, they sang. Elara leaned forward, captivated. They sang? Indeed, a melody so beautiful, so profound that it gave life and magic to everything. It was the song of creation itself. Our ancestors, the first inhabitants of these lands, lived in perfect accord with this song. They were known as the listeners, for they could hear the echoing veins and understand their intricate patterns. Grandmother Elara paused, tracing a finger over a particularly bright cluster of lines on the map. But then, a great silence fell. A shadow, born of discord and forgotten knowledge, swept across the lands. The echoing veins grew faint, their song muted, their magic withdrawing into the deepest recesses of the earth. The listeners, unable to hear the song, began to forget it. Generations passed, and the silence deepened. The Whisperwood grew over the muted echoing veins, drawing sustenance from their faint warmth. What caused the silence? Elara asked, her heart pounding with a mix of awe and trepidation. Grandmother Elara sighed, a faint sadness in her eyes. That, little one, is a tale lost to the mists of time. Some say it was a great sorrow, some say a great struggle, a battle for the very soul of the world. All we know is that the song faded, and the world grew dimmer, less vibrant. Our magic became more subtle, more hidden. She looked at Elara, her gaze piercing. But the legends also speak of a time when the song would begin to stir again, a faint whisper at first, growing louder as the echoing veins awakened. They spoke of a whispering, a call that would beckon those with the purest hearts and the sharpest ears to seek out the source of the silence, and to help the world remember its song. Elara's breath hitched. You mean the whispering is the song coming back? I believe so, my little star. And you, Elara, you are one of the awakened listeners. You hear it because the echoing veins are calling to you. Grandmother Elara gently took Elara's hand, placing the iridescent scale back into her palm. This scale, from the mythical world weaver, is a piece of that ancient song, a fragment of the magic that weaves all things. It glows now because it feels the awakening, and it recognizes the call in your heart. What does it mean, Grandmother? What do I do? Elara asked, a mix of wonder and a burgeoning sense of destiny swirling within her. The thought of being a listener, of being called by the very world, was both exhilarating and daunting. It means, Grandmother Elara said, her eyes twinkling with a familiar spark of adventure, that a journey is beginning. The whispering is a beacon, Elara, guiding you to where the silence is deepest, to where the echoing veins are most profoundly slumbering. It is there, in the heart of the deeper woods, that you will find the answers, and perhaps the means to help the world remember its song. She pointed to a spot on the ancient map, a shadowy, unexplored region deep within the depicted forest, marked with an intricate swirling symbol. There is a place, a forgotten sanctuary known as the Sunken Grove. Legend says it is where the heart of the echoing veins lies, where the silence first took hold. But it is also said to be guarded by forgotten magic, and hidden from all but those who are truly called. Elara looked at the map, then at the glowing scale in her hand, and then back at her grandmother. The whispering was now a symphony, soft and compelling, filling her entire being. It felt like a promise, a challenge, and an adventure, all rolled into one. The familiar comfort of Silverwood Glade suddenly felt too small, too quiet. "I have to go there, don't I?" Elara whispered, the question not truly a question but a statement of burgeoning resolve. Grandmother Elara smiled, a wise, knowing smile that reached her eyes. "The path will reveal itself to you, little listener. The whispering will be your guide, and your heart, touched by the world weaver, will know the way. But be warned, Elara. The deeper woods hold not only ancient magic but also forgotten shadows. The silence has protected itself for a long time." Elara nodded, her gaze fixed on the symbol of the sunken grove on the map. The whispering pulsed around her, a constant, loving invitation. Her mind was already racing, imagining the towering trees, the hidden paths, the secrets waiting to be uncovered. She felt a profound sense of purpose, a calling that resonated with every fiber of her being. "I understand," Elara said, her voice firm, filled with a newfound determination. "I will listen. I will seek the sunken grove." Grandmother Elara placed a hand on her shoulder, a gentle, reassuring weight. "Sleep now, my little star. Let the whispering guide your dreams, for tomorrow the journey begins." Elara returned to her room, her heart alight with the promise of adventure. Pip was still on her shelf, watching her with his knowing amber eyes. As she settled back into her moon moss bed, the iridescent scale clutched in her hand. The whispering enveloped her, a comforting, magical lullaby. It pulled her into a sleep filled with shimmering pathways, ancient trees, and the faint, beautiful melody of a forgotten song, calling her deeper into the heart of the world. The glade outside continued to glow, and the whisperwood trees pulsed their soft, rhythmic light, waiting for the dawn, and for the journey that would soon begin. The glade outside continued to glow, and the whisperwood trees pulsed their soft, rhythmic light, waiting for the dawn, and for the journey that would soon begin. As the first tendrils of dawn, woven from hues of amethyst and rose, began to thread through the ancient canopy of the whisperwood, Elara stirred. The moon moss bed, still cool and fragrant from the night, yielded to her slight weight. The iridescent scale, no longer just a dream fragment, rested in her palm, its surface catching the faint pre-dawn glow and fracturing it into 1,000 tiny rainbows. It felt warm, almost alive, a gentle hum resonating from its depths, echoing the melody that still lingered in the quiet chambers of her mind. The forgotten song. It wasn't a tune she recognized from the lullabies of her youth, sung by the elder folk under the star tree. This was older, deeper, a melody of the very earth, of flowing rivers and soaring winds, of ancient stones and nascent shoots. It called to her with an undeniable pull, a whisper woven into the fabric of her being, now emboldened by the iridescent scale. She slipped from her bed, her bare feet pressing into the cool, springy moon moss floor of her small dwelling. The glade outside, usually a kaleidoscope of soft shifting lights, was now beginning to brighten with the approaching sun. The whisperwood trees, whose bark glowed with an internal gentle luminescence, pulsed in a slower, more deliberate rhythm as the sky lightened, preparing to greet the day. Elara moved with a quiet determination she hadn't known she possessed. The scale seemed to guide her fingers as she gathered her few necessities. A satchel woven from sturdy vine fiber, a waterskin filled with the sweet dew collected from the bell blossoms, and a small pouch of sun-dried berries and nuts. She donned her practical tunic and trousers made from soft, durable moss silk and laced her sturdy boots. The glade had always been her world, a haven of peace and soft magic. But now, the world beyond beckoned, vibrant and full of secrets. As she stepped out, the air was crisp and sweet, carrying the scent of damp earth and awakening blossoms. The first rays of the true sun pierced the canopy, shattering the remaining starlight and painting the glade in vibrant greens and golds. The whisperwood trees, their internal light fading slightly in the sun's embrace, still hummed with a quiet energy. Before she could take her first step into the deeper woods, a rustle in the moon moss at her feet drew her gaze. A tiny creature, no bigger than her thumb, emerged. It was a gleam sprite, its body a shimmering emerald, its delicate wings beating with the speed of a hummingbird, leaving trails of golden dust. The sprite, usually shy and elusive, hovered before her face, its large, curious eyes, like polished obsidian, fixed on the iridescent scale she still held. It chirped softly, a sound like tiny wind chimes, and then, with a flick of its wings, darted towards the edge of the glade, pausing to look back, as if inviting her to follow. Elara smiled. It seemed she would not be entirely alone. Clutching the scale, its warmth a comforting presence against her palm, she took a deep breath, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. The forgotten song swelled in her heart, a clear, resonant call now, pulling her like an invisible thread. She followed the gleam sprite, stepping out of the familiar glade and into the heart of the Whisperwood. The forest immediately deepened around her. The trees here were older, their trunks wider than her small dwelling, their branches reaching up like gnarled arms towards the sky, forming a cathedral of green light and shadow. Sunbeams struggled to penetrate the dense canopy, dappling the forest floor in shifting patterns that danced with every breeze. The air was alive with the soft hum of hidden insects, the rustle of unseen creatures, and the constant, gentle whispering of the trees themselves, a sound like 1,000 soft voices sighing secrets to the wind. The gleam sprite, flitting ahead, led her along a barely visible path, a trail known only to the creatures of the wood. The ground beneath her boots was a springy carpet of moss and fallen leaves, interwoven with the delicate glowing threads of lumen vines, which pulsed with a soft, steady light, illuminating their way even in the deeper shadows. These vines, Elara knew, were the nervous system of the Whisperwood, connecting its ancient roots and sharing its lifeblood. As they walked deeper, the trees began to change. Their bark, initially a soft gray-green in the glade, now took on richer, deeper hues, obsidian black, emerald, even streaks of deep sapphire. Some trees bore patterns of glowing runes, etched by time and magic, their meaning lost to all but the oldest inhabitants of the forest. Elara traced one with her finger, feeling a faint tremor of ancient power beneath the bark. The forgotten song grew stronger here, seeming to emanate from the very earth beneath her feet, vibrating through the roots of the towering trees. The gleam sprite, which Elara had silently named Flicker for its quick, bright movements, suddenly stopped, hovering beside a particularly ancient tree. This tree was different from the others. Its trunk was so wide it would take 10 children to encircle it, and its bark was not smooth but ridged and gnarled, like the face of an old, wise being. From its branches hung luminous, bell-shaped flowers, each chiming a faint, melodic note as the breeze stirred them. These were moonbells, famed for their ethereal sound and their ability to guide lost travelers. Flicker darted towards a small hollow at the base of the ancient tree, beckoning Elara closer. As she approached, she noticed a faint shimmer in the air around the hollow, a distortion like heat haze. Reaching out, her fingers met not solid wood, but a yielding, invisible curtain. It was a veil, a magical barrier that protected sacred places in the Whisperwood. Elara hesitated, but the forgotten song urged her onward, a clear, sweet note resonating from the hollow. And then she noticed it, etched faintly into the bark above the hollow, was a symbol. It was a spiral, interwoven with 3 delicate leaves, glowing with the same iridescent sheen as the scale in her hand. She held up the scale. As if drawn by an invisible force, it began to vibrate more intensely, glowing brighter, casting tiny rainbows onto the ancient bark. She pressed the scale against the symbol. There was no sound, only a gentle ripple through the air, and the veil shimmered, then parted like mist, revealing a small, dark opening. Inside, the space was surprisingly large, a cavern hollowed out within the tree's heartwood. It was not truly dark, for the walls glowed with a soft internal light, much like the Whisperwood trees themselves, but more intensely, as if holding a captured star. In the center of the cavern, on a pedestal of living wood, rested an object. It was a tome, bound in what looked like petrified bark, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. But it was not the tome itself that captivated Elara. It was what lay open on its central pages. A map. Not a map of paper or parchment, but of interwoven light and shadow, depicting pathways and landmarks that pulsed with faint energy. And at the very heart of the map, glowing with an almost blinding luminescence, was a single symbol, the same spiral with 3 leaves that had opened the veil. As Elara leaned closer, the iridescent scale in her hand pulsed, and the forgotten song swelled, no longer just a melody, but a chorus of voices, whispering ancient tales. She realized the scale was not merely a beautiful object. It was a key, a fragment of something greater, attuned to the magic of this ancient forest. Flicker landed softly on her shoulder, its tiny body vibrating with excitement. Elara traced a glowing line on the map with her finger. It depicted a winding path, through mountains draped in mist, across rivers that gleamed like polished obsidian, and into a land marked by towering crystalline structures. This was not the familiar, gentle Whisperwood, but a world far beyond her glade. Her gaze fell upon the inscription beneath the map, Tight. It was in an ancient script, but as her fingers, still clutching the iridescent scale, brushed against the words, they seemed to bloom into understanding in her mind. Zeke, the heart of the song, where the Whisperwood breathes its deepest truth. The scales of Eldoria guard the path, and only a pure heart, guided by the ancient melody, may awaken the slumbering wisdom. Journey beyond the veiled peaks, through the echoing canyons, to the crystal spires of Athelgarth, where the first dragon's song awaits its rediscovery. The first dragon. The words resonated within her, a name of immense power and forgotten lore. And Scales of Eldoria, was the one in her hand one of them? The thought sent a thrill of awe and trepidation through her. Her journey was far grander than she had imagined. She closed the tome gently, the light of the map fading as the pages met. The cavern, though still softly glowing, felt less urgent now. It had given her a destination, a purpose. She thanked the ancient tree with a quiet reverence, then stepped back through the shimmering veil, Flicker still perched on her shoulder. The Whisperwood outside felt different now. It was no longer just a beautiful, magical place, but a living map, a tapestry of clues and challenges. The forgotten song, now understood as the first dragon's song, was a clearer guide, pointing her westward, towards the rising sun, towards the veiled peaks depicted on the map. Elara and Flicker continued their journey, the path becoming less distinct as they ventured further from the ancient tree. The forest around them grew wilder, the lumen vines thicker, their glow brighter, tracing intricate patterns on the ground. Strange, luminous fungi grew in clusters, casting pools of soft light, and the air shimmered with motes of golden dust, the shed scales of unseen glowmoths. They came to a clearing, circular and bathed in sunlight, but unlike any Elara had seen before. In its center stood not trees, but colossal, ancient stone pillars, covered in intricate carvings that pulsed with a faint inner light. These were the silent sentinels, monuments to a forgotten age, their purpose lost to the mists of time. As Elara stepped into the clearing, a low hum vibrated through the air, and the carvings on the sentinels seemed to subtly shift, their patterns rearranging themselves like living hieroglyphs. Flicker darted from her shoulder, circling one of the pillars with rapid, excited chirps. Elara noticed a small alcove at the base of this sentinel, partially overgrown with lumina moss. As she cleared away the moss, she uncovered another carving, a symbol she recognized from her dreams, a stylized representation of a dragon, its wings outstretched, cradling a single iridescent scale. She placed her scale into the indentation. It fit perfectly, clicking into place with a soft, resonant sound that echoed through the clearing. As it settled, a wave of energy rippled outwards from the sentinel. The glowing patterns on all the pillars intensified, illuminating the entire clearing in a dazzling display of light. The humming grew louder, a deep, resonant chord that seemed to vibrate in her very bones. From the central sentinel, a beam of pure, golden light shot upwards, piercing the canopy of the Whisperwood, and reaching for the sky. And then, from the heart of the light, a voice, ancient and resonant as the earth itself, spoke. It wasn't a voice of words, but of pure thought, flowing into Elara's mind like a gentle river. Child of the glade, awakened by the song. You bear a fragment of Eldoria's heart. The path ahead is fraught with echoes of what was, and whispers of what may be. The veiled peaks hide not only the way, but a test of spirit. Beware the shifting mists, for they guard the forgotten memories of the whispering peaks. The voice faded, and the light beam retracted, the scale in the sentinel glowing softly. Elara carefully retrieved her scale, feeling its warmth and newfound power. The message was clear. Toll. The journey would be more than just a walk through the woods. It would be a test, a pilgrimage to rediscover something vital. She looked at Flicker, whose bright eyes seemed to understand the gravity of the encounter. The gleam sprite nuzzled her cheek, a comforting presence. Together they continued, leaving the silent sentinels behind. The Whisperwood grew denser still, the light filtering through the leaves now a perpetual twilight. The air became cooler, carrying the scent of distant snow and wet stone. The ground began to slope upwards, and the gentle rolling hills of the inner Whisperwood gave way to more rugged terrain. Ancient roots, thick as serpents, snaked across the path, and boulders draped in glowing moss stood like silent giants. The forgotten song, the first dragon's song, now had a new layer, a deeper resonance that spoke of mountains and wind-swept heights. It pulled her inexorably towards the looming shadows on the horizon, the veiled peaks. They were not visible yet, shrouded by the forest, but their presence was palpable, a heavy ancient silence that contrasted with the lively hum of the Whisperwood. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, visible only through gaps in the canopy, Elara sought shelter for the night. She found a small overhang, a natural alcove in a cluster of colossal moss-covered rocks. Flicker, ever resourceful, quickly found some glowing fungi to illuminate their small space, casting a soft ethereal light. Elara ate her sun-dried berries and nuts, the simple meal tasting sweeter after the day's revelations. She clutched the iridescent scale, its magic feeling stronger now, a connection to the world she was only just beginning to understand. The whispering enveloped her once more, but this time, it was not a lullaby of dreams. It was a song of anticipation, a promise of discoveries yet to come. She lay down, pulling a soft woven blanket around her. The air grew colder, and the distant, unseen mountains seemed to call to her with a silent, majestic power. She knew the journey would be long, and likely challenging, but a new courage had taken root within her. With Flicker nestled safely beside her, a beacon of emerald light, Elara closed her eyes, ready for the dawn that would bring her closer to the veiled peaks, and closer to the heart of the song. The Whisperwood continued its gentle hum, a vast living entity watching over its young traveler, knowing that the rediscovery of the first dragon song was only just beginning. The dawn arrived not with a sudden burst, but with a gentle, pearlescent glow that filtered through the ancient canopy of the Whisperwood. Elara stirred, the scent of damp earth and awakening leaves filling her lungs. Flicker, nestled in the crook of her arm, pulsed softly, its emerald light a quiet counterpoint to the growing light of the sky. A flutter of apprehension, cold and quick, danced in her stomach, but it was quickly overshadowed by the surge of the new courage that had taken root within her, warmed by the promise of the song. She rose, stretching muscles stiff from sleep, and made her simple preparations. Her satchel, woven from sturdy river reeds, held dried berries, nuts, and a small water skin. Her staff, a gnarled branch of an ancient oak, gifted to her by a kind forest spirit years ago, felt solid and comforting in her grasp. It was more than just a walking aid. It hummed with a faint, sympathetic magic, a silent companion to her own nascent abilities. Taking a deep breath, Elara turned to face the heart of the Whisperwood, a vast, breathing entity that had cradled her since childhood. She placed a hand on the rough bark of the nearest ancient tree, feeling the slow, steady thrum of its life force. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustle of leaves. "For everything." The forest seemed to sigh in response, a gentle breeze rustling through the highest branches, as if offering a final fond farewell. Then, with a resolute nod, Elara turned and began to walk. The path, once familiar, now felt like a threshold. Each step took her further from the protective embrace of the trees, closer to the unknown. The air shifted, growing lighter, less dense with ancient magic, though a faint, lingering whisper of the song still danced at the edge of her hearing, a reminder of what she sought. Flicker zipped ahead, a tiny emerald comet, eager to explore, its light a steady beacon in the dappled transition from deep wood to open land. The Whisperwood slowly receded behind them, its emerald depths giving way to the vast rolling expanse of the sun-dappled plains. The change was breathtaking. Where before had been the intimate enclosing green of the forest, now stretched an immense sky, a dome of purest azure arching over endless carpets of wildflowers. Crimson, gold, sapphire, and amethyst blooms painted the landscape, swaying gently on slender stems, releasing their sweet perfumes into the crisp morning air. Tall, emerald grasses rippled like a boundless sea, whispering secrets to the passing breeze, their tips catching the sunlight in a million sparkling points. Elara felt an exhilarating sense of freedom, a lightness in her step she hadn't known within the deep woods. She felt small, a solitary figure in this magnificent expanse, yet also profoundly connected to its vastness. The wind, unhindered by trees, sang a different tune here, a clearer, more open melody that seemed to carry the very breath of the world. Flicker danced in delight, darting through the flower heads, leaving trails of emerald light that faded like firefly dust. They walked for several days, following the sun's gentle arc across the sky. The rhythm of travel settled upon Elara. Walk, rest, observe. She learned to read the sky for changing weather, to identify safe springs for water, and to find sheltered nooks among the gentle undulations of the land for sleeping. At night, the plains transformed. The sky became an impossibly dark velvet cloth, strewn with diamonds, and the distant calls of night creatures carried far on the cool air. Flicker would settle near her, its steady glow a comforting warmth against the chill, a small, vibrant heart in the vast darkness. During these days, Elara began to notice something peculiar about the wind. It wasn't just the rustle of grass or the sigh through the wildflowers. Sometimes, when she paused, closing her eyes and truly listening, she could discern faint, ethereal echoes carried on the currents. They weren't words, but fleeting fragments of sound, like the ghost of a melody, a resonant hum that seemed to vibrate just beyond the edge of hearing. Could this be the song, or an echo of it, carried across the land from its distant source? She felt its pull, a gentle magnetic force drawing her ever onward towards the towering silhouettes that were beginning to appear on the far horizon, the first faint outlines of the veiled peaks. As they progressed, the sun-dappled plains gradually yielded their gentle beauty to a more rugged, ancient landscape. The rolling hills became steeper, dotted with outcroppings of weathered gray stone. The wildflowers thinned, replaced by hardy mosses and tenacious shrubs that clung stubbornly to the rock faces. The air grew cooler, carrying a sharper mineral scent. One afternoon, as the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange and purple, Elara and Flicker crested a particularly long stony rise. Before them, standing stark against the vibrant sky, was a sight that made Elara catch her breath. A cluster of colossal stone cairns, ancient and weathered, rose from the earth like the petrified bones of giants. They were not neatly stacked, but seemed to have erupted from the ground, vast irregular monoliths worn smooth by millennia of wind and rain. These were the whispering cairns she knew, from the old tales she'd heard. Places where the land itself remembered. A profound stillness hung over the sight, broken only by the intensified sigh of the wind that seemed to swirl uniquely around the stones. As Elara approached, the faint musical echoes she'd heard on the plains became clearer, more distinct here. They wove together, a complex tapestry of sound, deep, resonant hums, high, keening notes, and soft, almost mournful whispers. It was like a choir of unseen voices, each searching for a harmony that remained just out of reach. Flicker, sensing the shift in energy, zipped around Elara's head, its light pulsing with an accelerated rhythm, almost buzzing with anticipation. One cairn, in particular, dominated the others. It was larger, more imposing, roughly hewn but undeniably shaped, almost like a crude, colossal figure standing sentinel. Its surface was deeply scored, etched with patterns that might once have been symbols, now almost entirely eroded by time. This was the Sentinel of Stone, a guardian of the ancient ways if the stories were true. As Elara drew closer, she could feel a faint vibration emanating from its base, a low, steady hum that resonated deep within her chest. Suddenly, a swirling mist, unlike any natural fog, began to rise from the ground around the base of the sentinel. It was luminescent, shimmering with faint internal lights of silver and gray, coalescing before Elara's eyes. The mist gathered, dense and thick, then slowly began to take on a form. It stretched upwards, growing taller and broader, until it stood before them as a towering, semi-transparent figure. It was elemental, woven from swirling earth and faint starlight, its outlines indistinct, yet its presence undeniable. There were no discernible features, no eyes or mouth, yet Elara felt an intense gaze upon her, a profound awareness emanating from the ancient guardian. It was not hostile, but its sheer power was awe-inspiring, a silent challenge in the fading light. The guardian spoke then, not with words Elara could understand, but with deep, resonant tones that vibrated through the very air, through the ground, and directly into her being. It was a language of pure sound, of feeling and meaning, carrying the weight of ages. The message was clear: though its precise form was elusive. Seeker of echoes, hear my charge. The path to the heart is not for the unprepared. What flows unseen yet binds all life? What whispers of ancient power, yet sings of new beginnings? What holds the memory of wings, yet knows no flight? What is this, and what is its true purpose? Ilara stood frozen for a moment, the resonant question echoing within her. Flicker, sensing her uncertainty, hovered close, pulsing gently against her cheek, as if offering silent encouragement. She knew this was a test, a riddle of profound significance. She closed her eyes, trying to clear her mind, to truly listen beyond the sounds, to understand the meaning of the Guardian's resonant query. What flows unseen yet binds all life? Nay, a song, she thought. The magic that permeates everything, connecting all living things. What whispers of ancient power, yet sings of new beginnings? Again the song. The song. It held the power of the first dragon, ancient beyond reckoning, yet its rediscovery promised a new era, a renewal. What holds the memory of wings, yet knows no flight? This was the part that lingered, sparking a deeper intuition. The first dragon, the creature of the song, had wings. But the song itself, while born of the dragon, was not a creature that flew. It was a force, an essence. It held the memory of flight, the potential of flight, but it was not flight itself. And its true purpose? This was the core. She cast her mind back to the hum of the whisperwood, to the lessons of connection, balance, and the subtle interplay of magic that sustained the forest. The song wasn't just power, it was harmony. It wasn't just a memory, it was a living force. Taking a deep centering breath, Ilara opened her eyes. She looked at the towering, shimmering form of the Guardian, and then at the ancient sentinel of stone behind it. The Guardian wasn't asking for an intellectual answer, she realized. It was asking for understanding, for a connection to the very essence of the song itself. It was asking if she truly, felt it, not just sought it. Guided by an instinct she didn't fully comprehend, Ilara walked slowly forward, extending her hand. She placed her palm gently against the rough cold stone of the sentinel cairn. Closing her eyes again, she focused not on the riddle, but on the profound resonance of the ancient stone, on the whispers of the wind, on the faint ethereal melody that still surrounded them. She let go of her thoughts and simply listened, allowing the flow of magic, the subtle vibration of the earth, and the lingering echoes of the song to pass through her. She remembered the feeling of the song within her, the brief, intense connection she'd felt in the whisperwood. She didn't have words, not in the Guardian's language of resonance. But she had her heart, and she had her truth. Slowly, softly, Ilara began to hum. It wasn't a specific tune, but a pure, clear note, a simple melody that welled up from deep within her, an echo of the harmony she'd found in the forest, a yearning for the balance she sought to restore. It was her own small, heartfelt contribution to the choir of echoes, a pure expression of her intent. As her hum intertwined with the ancient whispers, something shifted. The shimmering form of the Guardian seemed to pulse, its internal lights brightening, then softening. The resonant tones it had emitted earlier softened into a gentle, sustained chord, a sound of profound recognition and peace. Slowly, gracefully, the elemental mist began to dissolve, flowing back into the earth from which it had arisen, leaving behind only a faint, lingering glow and an overwhelming sense of acceptance. Ilara felt a warmth spread through her hand, radiating from the sentinel of stone, a silent blessing. She felt, for a fleeting moment, a deeper connection to the land, to the ancient magic woven into its very fabric. The riddle had been answered, not with words, but with a pure heart and a true connection to the spirit of the song. As the last vestiges of the Guardian's mist faded, a new clarity settled upon the landscape. The setting sun dipped below the horizon, but in its place the stars began to emerge, impossibly bright and numerous, as if celebrating her passage. And from the direction of the towering mountains ahead, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of light pulsed in the gathering dusk, a silent beckoning. Having passed the Guardian, Ilara felt a profound shift within her. Her courage was no longer a fledgling seed but a sturdy sapling, deeply rooted. She felt a quiet confidence, a deeper understanding of her purpose, and a more intimate connection to the subtle energies of the world. Flicker, buzzing with renewed vigor, danced around her, its emerald light seeming to have grown brighter, mirroring her own inner luminescence. The landscape began to change once more, growing steeper and more dramatic with every step. The gentle slopes of the plains gave way to rugged, rocky terrain, interspersed with patches of hardy, resilient vegetation. They were now truly entering the foothills of the veiled peaks. The air grew noticeably cooler, thinner, carrying the crisp, clean scent of pine and damp stone. Towering above them, their summits often shrouded in swirling mists and ethereal clouds, loomed the veiled peaks themselves. They were colossal, ancient giants of stone, their jagged ridges clawing at the sky. Their sheer scale was humbling, a breathtaking testament to the raw power of the world. Elara felt a powerful magnetic draw, an undeniable pull towards those majestic heights. The heart of the song was up there, she knew, waiting amidst those cloud-kissed spires. As they ascended, the trail, though faint, became more defined, winding its way through narrow passes and along precarious ledges. They encountered new flora, gnarled, wind-battered trees with dark, ancient needles, and tiny, vibrant alpine flowers that clung tenaciously to cracks in the rock. Mountain goats with their shaggy coats and keen eyes watched them from impossible heights, their figures silhouetted against the vast sky. One evening, as the last rays of twilight painted the peaks in shades of deep purple and fiery orange, Elara found a small sheltered overhang, barely a cave, nestled against a massive rock face. It offered respite from the biting mountain wind. She built a small smokeless fire, its warmth a welcome comfort against the chill that seemed to seep from the very stones. Flicker, after its energetic day, settled beside her, its emerald glow a steady, reassuring pulse in the growing darkness. From their high vantage point, the plains stretched out behind them, a vast, shadowy tapestry under the twinkling stars. Above, the sky was an even darker, more brilliant canvas than on the plains, the stars so numerous and bright, they seemed within arm's reach. Elara looked up, her gaze drawn to the towering, mysterious peaks that loomed above her, their summits still veiled in their customary shrouds of mist. She could feel the ancient power emanating from them, a deep, resonant hum that was almost a physical presence. The journey ahead would be long, and undoubtedly challenging, but a quiet determination settled deep within her heart. The heart of the song awaited, hidden amidst those majestic, cloud-kissed heights, and Elara, with Flicker beside her, was ready to continue her ascent. The air grew thinner with every upward step, carrying with it a crisp, invigorating scent of pine and ancient stone. Elara and Flicker began their ascent, the well-worn path from the valley floor quickly giving way to rougher terrain. Moss-covered boulders, slick with perpetual mountain mist, became stepping stones, and gnarled, wind-sculpted trees clung stubbornly to the slopes, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards the heavens. Flicker, true to his name, zipped ahead, his luminous wings a blur of emerald and gold against the muted grays and greens of the mountain. He would often pause, hovering impatiently, then dip and twirl, signaling a safer foothold or a hidden crevice Elara might overlook. His presence was a constant comfort, a small, bright beacon in the vast, imposing landscape. As they climbed higher, the vegetation began to change. The familiar pines thinned, replaced by hardy, low-lying shrubs with leaves like polished jade, and strange bioluminescent fungi that pulsed softly in the deepening twilight, casting an ethereal glow on the path. The silence here was different from the valley, not empty, but filled with a deep, resonant hum, like the earth itself breathing. It vibrated in Elara's bones, a subtle music that spoke of immense, slumbering power. Days turned into a rhythm of arduous climbing and brief, star-dusted rests. Elara learned to read the subtle shifts in the wind, the language of crumbling rock faces, and the warnings in Flicker's agitated chirps. They navigated narrow goat trails that clung precariously to sheer cliffs, crossed roaring glacial streams on ancient, moss-slicked bridges, and huddled for warmth in shallow caves that smelled of damp earth and forgotten time. One morning, after a particularly steep climb, they found themselves at the edge of a vast frozen lake, its surface like a sheet of polished obsidian reflecting the inverted peaks. Across its expanse, partially obscured by a fresh swirl of mist, stood a colossal, ancient archway of dark, unhewn stone. It seemed to have grown organically from the mountainside, its surface etched with symbols Elara had never seen, yet felt distantly familiar. A chill, colder than the mountain air, emanated from it. "Flicker," Elara whispered, pulling her cloak tighter. "Do you feel that?" Flicker, usually so fearless, hovered close to her shoulder, his glow dimming slightly. He chirped nervously, his antennae twitching towards the archway. A low growl, deep and guttural, echoed from beyond the arch. As they approached cautiously, a figure emerged from the mist, a creature of immense size, resembling a mountain bear, but with fur like ancient granite and eyes that glowed with an internal icy light. It moved with a slow, deliberate power, its every step shaking the ground. This was no ordinary animal. It was a guardian. "Who trespasses?" a voice boomed, not from the bear's mouth, but resonating from the very air around it, cold and sharp as mountain ice. "Few venture this far, fewer still return." Elara's heart hammered against her ribs, but she held her ground, remembering the determination that had brought her this far. "My name is Elara. I seek the heart of the song." The guardian bear let out a rumbling sound, a slow, humorless chuckle. "The heart of the song. Many seek it. Most do not understand what it is. It is not a treasure to be claimed, child, but a responsibility to be born." Its icy gaze bore into her. "What right have you to seek it?" "Ow! My valley, my home." "It is losing its melody," Elara explained, her voice gaining strength despite her fear. "The plants wither, the waters quiet. The song that sustains us is fading. I believe the heart of the song can heal it." The guardian studied her, its head tilted. "A noble intent, but intent alone is not enough. The path ahead is not merely physical. It tests the spirit, the mind, and the very core of your being. To pass this gate, you must prove your worth. You must demonstrate the harmony you claim to seek." "How?" Elara asked, her gaze unwavering. "You speak of a fading song. Can you find it within you? Can you hear the music of this mountain even now, in this place of stillness and ancient power?" The guardian gestured with a massive paw towards the frozen lake. "The ice holds many echoes. Find the true note, the one that resonates with the mountain's heart, and the gate shall open." Elara closed her eyes, trying to block out the intimidating presence of the guardian. She focused on the deep hum she had felt since entering the peaks. It was subtle, almost imperceptible beneath the roar of the wind and the creaking of distant ice. She reached out with her senses, trying to feel beyond the physical, to listen with more than just her ears. At first, there was only cold, vast emptiness. Then slowly, she began to discern layers. The high-pitched whisper of the wind over the lake, the low rumble of shifting ice beneath its surface, the distant call of some unseen bird. But deeper, beneath it all, was that resonant hum. It wasn't a single note, but a chord, complex and ever-shifting, like the living mountain itself. Flicker landed softly on her shoulder, emitting a soft, encouraging trill. He pulsed gently, his light a warm comfort. Elara took a deep breath, letting the mountain's song fill her. It was a song of endurance, of patience, of ancient, unyielding strength, yet also of delicate balance. She opened her mouth and began to sing. Her voice, usually soft and melodious, now carried a new depth, infused with the very essence of the mountain's hum. She didn't sing a melody she knew, but a melody that simply was, born from the vibrations she felt, a raw, pure sound that mirrored the mountain's soul. The guardian bear watched, its head cocked slightly. The icy glow in its eyes softened, and the deep growl that had threatened them earlier now seemed to soften into a low thrum of approval. As Elara's song reached its crescendo, the ancient archway before them began to pulse with a gentle inner light. The air around it shimmered, and the symbols etched into its stone glowed, revealing intricate patterns Elara hadn't noticed before. Slowly, majestically, the massive stone gate began to recede into the rock, revealing a winding upward path shrouded in a luminous silver mist. "You have found a fragment of the mountain's song within yourself," the guardian rumbled, its voice now softer, almost sorrowful. "Go forth, Elara of the valley. The path ahead will demand more. The heart of the song will not be given lightly, nor understood easily. It is not a magic to be wielded, but a balance to be maintained, remember that." With a nod of gratitude, Elara and Flicker passed through the shimmering archway, leaving the ancient guardian behind. The path was now steeper, narrower, and the air crackled with an almost palpable energy. The silver mist clung to them, cool and refreshing, and strange, luminous flora lined the path, pulsing with soft light. The higher they climbed, the more the mist thickened, until they were moving through a world of swirling silver and muted light. They encountered strange, ethereal creatures, wisps of light that danced just beyond reach, fleeting shadows that darted between glowing crystals, and small, shimmering insects that left trails of stardust in their wake. Flicker chased some, his playful chirps echoing in the muffled silence, but Elara kept her focus, the guardian's words echoing in her mind. Ki balance to be maintained. After what felt like an eternity, the mist began to thin, revealing a breathtaking sight. They had reached a vast plateau, high above the clouds, where the mist finally dissipated, revealing a sky of deep, vibrant indigo, dotted with stars even in what should have been daylight. Before them stood a cluster of soaring crystalline peaks, their surfaces gleaming with an inner light, like colossal jewels carved by the gods themselves. And nestled among them at the very heart of the highest peak was a shimmering, pulsating vortex of pure, unadulterated light. It didn't emit heat, but a profound, resonant calm that washed over Elara, settling her racing heart. This was it. The heart of the song. It wasn't an object, not a crystal, or a spring. It was pure energy, a nexus of all the world's natural harmony, a living, breathing symphony of light and sound. It pulsed with every color imaginable, each hue and note in a vast, silent melody that resonated through Elara's entire being. As they approached, a figure materialized from the light, tall, slender, and radiating an aura of ancient wisdom. Its form was fluid, like solidified mist, shifting and shimmering with the colors of the heart. It had no discernible face, but Elara felt its presence keenly, a profound intelligence that spanned eons. "Welcome, Seeker," the voice resonated, not in her ears but directly in her mind, a chorus of pure tones. "You have traveled far. You have faced your fears. You have listened to the mountain's song. Are you the heart of the song?" Elara whispered, awestruck. "I am but a manifestation, a voice. The heart is all around you, all within you. It is the life force of this world, the delicate balance that allows rivers to flow, trees to grow, and songs to be sung. It is the whisper of the wind, the rumble of the earth, the dance of light on water. It is the interconnectedness of all things. Then why is its song fading in my valley?" Elara asked, her voice filled with urgency. "The heart of the song reflects the world it sustains," the voice explained, its tones tinged with a gentle sorrow. "It is not a source that simply gives, it receives as well. The harmony of the world feeds it, and it, in turn, nourishes the world. But when discord grows, when balance is lost, when the natural flow is disrupted, the heart weakens. It dims." Elara thought of the clear-cutting, the damming of rivers, the forgotten traditions of her people. "We have taken too much," she murmured, a fresh wave of understanding washing over her. "We have forgotten to give back." "Indeed," the manifestation replied. "The heart is not broken, child. It is merely quieted. It yearns for the song to return, but it cannot force it. It can only reflect what is. You came seeking to teach a remedy, but the remedy is not something you can carry away." "Then what can I do?" Elara asked, a knot forming in her stomach. Had she come all this way for nothing? "You must rekindle the song, not here, but within the world itself, within your people. The heart of the song needs to be remembered, not just chound. You must remind them of the harmony, the balance, the interconnectedness." The manifestation shimmered, its light intensifying. "You have heard the mountain's song, the guardian's wisdom. You have found your own strength. Now, you must become a conduit. You must help the world sing again." A wave of doubt washed over Elara. How could one girl, even with Flicker by her side, convince an entire valley, an entire world, to change its ways? But how? By listening, by sharing, by reliving the song, the manifestation urged. "The heart of the song will offer you a gift, Elara, not a magical object, but a resonance, a deeper connection, a clarity of hearing and a purity of voice. With it, you will be able to remind others of the forgotten melodies, but the choice, the change, must ultimately come from them. As it spoke, the pulsating vortex of light before them swelled, and a gentle, invisible force drew Elara forward. Flicker, sensing no danger, zipped around her, his glow reflecting the kaleidoscope of colors. Elara felt a subtle current flow through her, not painful, but intensely vibrant, as if every cell in her body was suddenly attuned to a higher frequency. It was a profound, silent blessing. Her mind felt clearer, her senses sharper, and deep within her, a quiet, insistent melody began to play, a note of perfect harmony. The manifestation slowly began to dissipate, merging back into the heart of the song. Go, Elara. The path down is no longer arduous. It is a path of understanding, of sharing. The world awaits its song. With a final deep breath, Elara felt the immense power of the heart surrounding her, not as a burden, but as an embrace. She understood now. The heart of the song wasn't a magic spell to fix everything, but a living barometer of the world's well-being. To heal it, she had to heal the world's disharmony. She turned, Flicker settling on her shoulder, his own light brighter than ever, humming with the new energy. The descent was indeed different. The silver mist parted for them, revealing breathtaking vistas of the world below, now seeming more vibrant, more alive, as if seen through new eyes. The paths that had been challenging now felt like well-trodden trails, and the sounds of the mountain were no longer just distant echoes, but a symphony she could truly understand. When they reached the ancient archway, the guardian bear was gone, but the gate stood open, welcoming them back. The frozen lake shimmered peacefully. Elara and Flicker made their way down the mountain, their journey now a pilgrimage of understanding rather than a quest for a distant goal. As they descended into the familiar landscapes of the lower slopes, Elara began to sing. Her voice, touched by the heart of the song, carried a new clarity, a resonant purity that seemed to awaken the very earth. The plants she passed seemed to stir, their leaves unfurling with renewed vigor. A nearby stream, which had trickled sluggishly, now seemed to bubble with a livelier tune. She didn't sing complex melodies, but simple, elemental notes, born from the harmony she now felt within herself and around her. She sang to the trees, to the earth, to the wind, sharing the silent song of balance and interconnectedness. When they finally returned to her valley, a subtle but profound change was already underway. The air felt fresher, the colors of the sparse vegetation seemed richer. The villagers, initially surprised to see her return from the forbidden peaks, were drawn to her. They noticed a subtle light in her eyes, a quiet strength in her demeanor. Elara didn't tell them tales of grand magic or hidden treasures. Instead, she shared her journey with them through stories, through simple songs. She spoke of the mountain's wisdom, of the guardian's words, of the heart of the song not as an object, but as the very pulse of their world. She explained how their actions, big and small, ripple through the land, affecting its harmony. She showed them how to listen to the whispers of the river, to hear the ancient stories in the rustle of leaves, to feel the deep, steady beat of the earth beneath their feet. She helped them remember the old songs, the ones that celebrated the turning of the seasons, the bounty of the harvest, the sacred balance of give and take. Slowly, gradually, the valley began to heal. The river, once choked by debris, now flowed clearer, its song returning. The trees, once struggling, put forth new shoots. The fields, once barren, began to yield more abundantly. The villagers, inspired by Elara's quiet dedication and the undeniable revitalization of their home, started working together, finding new ways to live in harmony with their environment. They cleared debris from the riverbeds, replanted forests, and shared resources more equitably. Elara, with Flicker still her faithful companion, became the valley's quiet guardian, not of a gate, but of its living song. She taught the children the melodies of the earth and sky, reminding them to always listen, to always give thanks, to always remember their place within the grand, interconnected symphony of life. The mist still clung to the peaks, their summits still mysterious, but now, when Elara looked up, she didn't just see a challenge. She saw a sacred heart, beating in rhythm with her own, a constant reminder that the true magic of the world wasn't in grand spells or hidden treasures, but in the delicate, beautiful and ever-present harmony that binds all living things. And as the sun set over her revitalized valley, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, Elara knew that the heart of the song beat strong, not just within the towering peaks, but within the heart of every living creature, waiting only to be heard and cherished. The melody had returned, woven into the very fabric of her home, a lullaby of balance and peace for generations to come.